Hello well-wishers and welcome to my channel Aspiring Minds. In today's video, we are going to decode the line-by-line meaning and do a detailed analysis of a very well-known poem which is often read as a part of war poetry, that is The Charge of the Light Brigade, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So grab your virtual seats and let's begin. Alfred Lord Tennyson, he is the most celebrated English poets of the Victorian era. Now, why do I keep saying Victorian era? Because this was a time when Queen Victoria was ruling over England. At this time, Tennyson served as the Poet Laureate of the United Kingdoms for over 40 years. He is known for very famous poetic forms of poetry that he would write, and he often explored the themes that were related to the human condition, nature and society. My dear lovely viewers, you will understand this poem better if I explain a little bit about the background of the poem, okay? So if you see the map on your screens, this is a map of Crimea. Now what had happened is that this poem that is written by Alfred Lord Tennyson is a response to a disastrous military incident that had occurred during the Crimean War. It was fought between 1854 to 1856. Now basically what happened was that the Light Brigade was actually a group of soldiers, okay? They were a part of the British cavalry unit. Now they were sent to fight the Battle of Balaclava. Now, due to some kind of misunderstanding and miscommunication, the Light Brigade was ordered to charge directly over Russia. Now, at this time, Russia was fully prepared. It had heavy artillery. Now, remember, there is the Light Brigade on one side who are fighting in a traditional manner. They are fighting with swords, and on the other hand, you have an army which is prepared with artillery, with advanced weapons like the guns, etc. Now you can well imagine what would have been the condition of the Light Brigade. So that is why it is said to be a strategic error and a miscommunication. Now the result was that it was an almost suicidal endeavor, because obviously the Light Brigade would not be able to win in front of a more powerful Russian army which had more advanced weapons. So that is what the poem is going to be all about. Now you just saw the background to the poem, right? So what is the central message of the poem? The poem is basically a tribute to the bravery and heroism of the Light Brigade soldiers who obeyed the orders that were given to them by the authority, and they did not question what they were being told to do even when they knew that death is going to be certain for them. So therefore the poem emphasizes the idea of duty and honor. Even when you know that the outcome is going to be death, in the name of honor and duty, you go ahead with a decision that has been taken by the authority. Overall, the poem is divided into 6 stanzas. Let us begin decoding the meaning of stanza 1. Now the poem begins with the famous line half a league, which means the Light Brigade is half a league, that is about a mile away from the enemy. Now they are riding onward or forward into the Valley of Death. Why is it called the Valley of Death? Because I just told you that the Light Brigade soldiers were fighting traditionally on horses with armors and swords, right? And they were facing the enemy, the Russian army, that had heavy advanced weapons and artillery guns, etc. So they knew, the Light Brigade knew that they are going to be entering the Valley of Death because death is going to be certain, and there were about 600 soldiers. They were charging at the enemy's guns. This stanza sets the scene of the soldiers who are riding fearlessly into the battle despite knowing the fact that there is going to be danger in front of them and the certainty of death is standing right in front of them. In stanza 2, we see that the order to charge at the enemy is repeated, and the poem questions if anyone at all was afraid, suggesting that none of the soldiers were dismayed or discouraged, even when they knew that there was a mistake that had been done in taking a decision about going ahead and fighting with an army or the enemy who was so much more prepared than they were. The stanza therefore emphasizes the idea that the soldiers, who are often referred to as the 600, had no choice but to follow the orders unquestioningly. Their duty was to follow the orders and fight, not to question the motive that was there behind the orders that had been passed. Because see, it's written, theirs is not to make reply, theirs is not to reason why, theirs is but to do and die. This is the unfortunate ending that the Light Brigade had. They could not at any cost question the authority about the judgment that had been passed, but all they could do was go into the valley of death and face the enemy, however difficult a situation they were thrust into. Stanza 3 describes how the soldiers faced the enemy as they were riding directly into the field where the enemy was fighting or firing ceaselessly. There were cannons on the right side, on the left side, in front of them, and the constant firing had been happening. The soldiers at this time are stormed at. They were shot and shelled down, facing a barrage of enemy fire, but they continue to ride bravely into the battle. That is, very beginning, they get to know that there is going to be terrible kind of weapons that are going to be used in front of them. But these soldiers of the Light Brigade, these 600, they move on fearlessly. The phrase jaws of death and mouth of hell emphasizes the extremity of danger that is there in front of them and how they are still going ahead and fighting the battle. In stanza 4, we get a description of how the soldiers of the Light Brigade are fighting. They are flashing their sabers. Sabers are a different type of sword that was used by the soldiers of the Light Brigade, and they were charging at the enemy, who were all prepared with guns. Now this was a very surprising thing that was happening, because when a war is happening, at least there should be this much of courtesy that both sides have, if not same but similar weapons of same intensity, so that it can be a equal fight. But here the Russian army clearly had a better advantage, but the decision was wrongly taken on the side of the cavalry, the British cavalry or the Light Brigade. Now the soldiers break through the enemy's lines. They are causing the Cossack and Russian soldiers to go back. That is how they were trying their best to make or ensure that the Russian soldiers are scared of them and they move back. However, not all the Light Brigade soldiers return. Some are lost in battle, because it was a clear decision that the Light Brigade, the very fact that some of them are going to be able to return is actually a big thing, considering the kind of preparation that was there from the side of the Russian army. Some phrases in stanza 5 are repeated. The soldiers continue to face the enemy fire from all the sides. The stanza describes how the soldiers of the Light Brigade fight courageously, bravely, and they also at the same time suffer from heavy casualties. Horse and hero fell. That is the description given, that there is no difference being made between an animal and a soldier. Both of them are on an equal plane when they are facing the enemy. Both of them are attacked by the enemy and they fall to the floor and they die. It suggests that the casualties were not just of the soldiers but also of the animals that were involved in the battle. So it is revealed that only a few of the 600 soldiers survived the battle and managed to return back. The final stanza reflects on the glory of the charge that was made by the 600 soldiers. The world literally wondered at the courage and bravery of these 600 soldiers. Now Tennyson asks the readers to honor these Light Brigade soldiers, and he calls them the noble 600 because these were not ordinary random number of 600 soldiers, but they were indeed worthy of praise for the sacrifice that they had done, because when they knew that this decision was certain, that is they are going to die, yet they did not hesitate to go ahead and fight. That is the commitment to their country, the duty that they were bound by, that they did not even think twice and they went ahead despite knowing that it was a wrong decision that had been made. There are three major themes of the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade. Let us have a look at it in a more systematic manner. Firstly, bravery and sacrifice. Now the poem celebrates the remarkable contribution in the name of courage and self-sacrifice of the soldiers of the Light Brigade who faced death courageously despite knowing the outcome. Secondly, it also shows the duty and loyalty, commitment of the soldiers who unquestioningly go ahead. They obey the orders when they knew those orders were flawed. There was error in the order that had been passed on to them, yet in the name of duty and loyalty towards their country, they go ahead to fight the battle. And lastly, the poem also highlights the heroism of these ordinary soldiers. They were not ordinary at all, they were actually true heroes. They turned into symbols of nobility, of valor, courage, because what they did is actually not possible to be done by people of today. When you know you are going to die, or when you already know the outcome is going to be a negative one, we often take a step back, but these soldiers did not do so in the name of honor. Now this also highlights the futility of war in reality, okay, because you have to also be practical. Now I also have a video on war poetry that is already live on my channel. You can go and have a look at it. That will help you in better understanding of this poem. So that's it from this video. I hope you liked it. Do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more such future updates. Thank you for watching. Bye.